Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendars. I'm Ralph Diamichis, one of the astrologers, along with Lahni Diamichis. This is one of our portrait series. This is a special because it's of the United States of America, calculated for noon on July 4th, 1776 is the chart we prefer, related to the transits for January 6th and 7th, 2021, when the Capitol was assaulted by a mob, and then the following morning when the 2020 election was certified. This is a topic which I feel, like many Americans, pretty strongly about, but I want to look at it dispassionately, and hopefully the perspective will give you some comfort to realize that our republic is not finished. We're just turning a page. What set this off? Why was this such a big issue? Why do we feel this so emotionally? Well, emotions are the moon. Where was the moon that day? It was in Libra. Well, in the noontime chart, America has Libra rising, which makes perfect sense. It's the United States of America. It's a partnership. It has Saturn rising, so the moon was passing over Saturn. Saturn's not real comfortable with moon transits. Saturn does okay with Venus transits, it does okay with Mercury transit. Moon transits it doesn't like. They're a little too ephemeral, they're a little too gushy. And so having it pass over the rising, it just caught us unawares. It caught us surprised by how much it affected us. That's the moon passing over Saturn. Why was there so much tension? Well, first of all, the sun in the natal chart is at 13 degrees Cancer, at the star Sirius. The sun during this transit was at 16 degrees Capricorn, directly opposite, within 3 degrees of the opposition. Well, it's taking place in the 4th house. This is the time normally when people are at home. You know, Capricorn in the United States, the sun's passing through the 4th house, the house of the home. Everyone's home this time of year. It's the home. It's the house. This is the people's house. The congressional buildings are the people's house. It's our legislators. So the sun passing through there, it focuses it there. Now, the United States has been having a Pluto return. This happens after 240 years. You get a Pluto return. It's the power of the small. And at this time, the United States has been very affected by small groups of people, you know, hackers, small militant groups making lots of noise, a few people on the web making lots of noise. It's been the power of the small. Why did it spark now? Well, guess who was conjunct Pluto in the transit? Mercury. Mercury are young people, people in movement, people being noisy. Mercury has a talent for mischief, right? In the 4th house, in the house of the home, conjunct Pluto, being excited by power. Excited by power. Well, it really is worse because the Mercury was passing right over, or within a degree, of the United States Pluto. So it was really triggering that Pluto. And the natal Mercury is at 24 degrees Cancer. So directly opposite the natal Mercury. So completely challenging it. And in the course of the day, it passes right over the Pluto because Mercury moves fast. It goes from, during the day, 26 degrees to, by the time they certify, 28 degrees. So a lot of power going on there. Additionally, Mars, which was in Aries for the whole last part of 2020, a year we'd all love to forget, was at the 29th degree of Aries, the most aggressive and extrovert position for Aries. It's not nearly as polite as Mars in Scorpio, which is the feminine position. It's more overt. And so there's been a lot of raucous behavior. It changed signs on the 6th in the afternoon. But in that last degree, it tends to be the most extreme. And sometimes the most extreme bad version, but sometimes the best version, but it's the most extreme version. So violence was really coming out, and it was in Aries. So in the sign opposite America's rising, in the 7th house, the 7th house is the house of the lawmakers. Mars in the house of the lawmakers, being aggressive. Mercury in the sign of, as a mischievous sign in the house of the home. Is it really surprising that the president would incite people to attack the people's house and the house of the lawmakers. Now, all this sounds, relatively horrible. The one bright light of this, and it was even worse because Mars and Venus were opposite each other. It's even very significant that, remember, it's Mercury, which rules Gemini. Well, Donald Trump is a Gemini, as is Pence, Vice President Pence, as was William Barr, the Attorney General from much of his administration, were all Geminis. So Gemini related to power, crowds, insurrection. There's a lot of symbolism there. But what's the bright spot? Come on, Ralph. What's the bright light in all this? The bright light is really very evident. For much of the year last year, such a difficult year, Jupiter and Saturn were both in Capricorn, opposing the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury of the United States. So it was a Jupiter opposition. So the United States really felt like they didn't have any latitude. They didn't have any leverage. At the end of the year in December, Jupiter and Saturn both changed sign, and it moved from the house of the home into the house of creativity and joy. So basically, starting from the time of the election, right after the election, America turned a page. We're on to the next thing. This thing with President Trump, that was last year. He's done as far as we're concerned. America has really gone on to the next page. We're a future-looking company. We have the moon in Aquarius. We always want to know what's the future. And so we're real quick to say, okay, well, what's the next administration? Who's going to be the next Attorney General? Who's going to be the next Secretary of Transportation? That's what we want to know. We really don't want to know what pardons President Trump is giving. It's interesting, but it really doesn't affect very much. So we've turned the page. This is some weird little leftover aberration, one last burst of last year kind of intruding on January. Remember, the real year doesn't start this year until the 11th of February. That's the Lunar New Year. That's the new moon in Aquarius. That's really the beginning of the next year. That's why we do our forecast from there. We're in the last throes of the year of the rat. We're about to go into the year of the metal oxen, which, believe me, is a much nicer year. So I hope this gives you some perspective, and I hope it gives you some optimism about the future. So make sure you come back and see us for our regular portraits, which we do on Tuesdays, and come and see us on Fridays for our weekly forecasts. We're getting ready to do the annual forecast now for the Chinese New Year. You'll find all of that at Planetary Calendar Astrology on YouTube. And of course, you can also find our calendars and such and all kinds of other educational materials at planetarycalendar.com. Wishing you a wonderful 2021, and believe me, it will get better.